Odin was the most important god of Norse mythology, known as the father of all. He was the wiser among the gods. As a supreme god, Odin reigned in his Asgard throne. From there, he was able to look at everything that took place in the most diverse kingdoms of Norse mythology. Odin is often depicted while holding a spear, accompanied by two ravens, Hugin and Munin, and two wolves, Geri and Freki. This god only has one eye. The other was sacrificed in his quest for wisdom. In addition to being considered the god of wisdom, he was also the god of war and death. The souls of those who perished with bravery in the battlefields were taken by the Valkyries and welcomed by Odin in the Hall of Valhalla, where they would stay until the arrival of Ragnarok. Frigga assumes the role of the mother goddess in Norse mythology. She was Odin's wife, and was therefore acknowledged as a figure with great authority. The goddess was the protector of homes, marriages, and pregnant women, quite similar to the goddess Hera from Greek mythology. Frigga was a mellifluous and peacemaking figure, and so she was constantly trying to mediate conflicts, hence being deemed the goddess of peace. She was the one who spread rune-based fortune-telling, but her prophetic power brought her the grief to foresee her own son's death. Freyr is a sovereign Vanir god of the kingdom of Alfheimr, the land of elves of light, and he is regarded as the god of prosperity and soil fertility. He and his subjected elves are accountable for the growth and prosperity of all sorts of vegetables. However, after the war between the gods Aesir and Vanir, Freyr had to live in Asgard as a hostage. Freyr is the bearer of stunning artifacts, for instance a sword that fights by itself, a horse capable of trespassing any obstacle, a golden boar whose brightness blinded enemies in battle and frightened the darkness away, and also a large boat that could be folded and stored in his own pocket. Freya is the goddess of love and beauty in Norse mythology, and, like her brother Freyr, she is also a Vanir goddess, the daughter of Njörd. For her immense beauty, Freya often prompted several clashes. Capable of arousing the lust of everyone, Freya had numerous love relationships with other deities. Freya was also the leader of the Valkyries, lesser deities who had as one of their responsibilities to go after the souls of the dead in the battlefields. These dead people were split with Odin, who took them to Valhalla, while Freya took them to Volkvangr, where they would be trained to defend the palace of the gods. And so Freya is also a goddess associated with death. Thor, son of Odin, is indeed the most popular god of Norse mythology. The thunder god was acclaimed as the champion among gods. In other words, he was the best warrior among all the gods of Asgard. Making use of his hammer Mjolnir, he never missed his target, and his magic belt gave him an incommensurable strength. Thor was virtually invincible in combat. This god was the defender of the world and men. He was unrelenting in his fight against evil and fiercely fought his enemies. Thor walked the heavens using his goat-pulled chariot, and, wherever he went, one could hear the noise of his thunder. Odin's son was even more worshipped during the Viking Age due to his martial reputation. Sif is the wife of Thor, a goddess associated with the fertility of the land and crops. She was known for her beauty and beautiful golden hair, with dwarf-made golden strands. The goddess is also worshipped as a goddess of homes, but despite her feminine image, Sif is also an outstanding warrior. The goddess was fond of the excellence in martial arts, favoring technique and strategy in combat in detriment to brute force. Heimdall was the guardian god, son of 9 mothers. He never slept, and his role was to defend the Bifrost Bridge. This bridge was formed by a rainbow that connected the kingdom of Asgard with the kingdom of mortal beings. Heimdall will announce the coming of the end of the world by blowing the Gjallarhorn, which could be heard anywhere in the universe, hence starting the Ragnarok. He is one of humanity's patrons, and accountable for the creation of social strata, dividing the Jarls, who were the nobles, the Carls, who were freemen, and the Thralls, who were the servants and slaves. Tyr is the god of war in Norse mythology, and in the beginning he was regarded as the supreme god of the Norse pantheon, and then he was replaced by Odin. In other versions, he was the son of Odin and Frigga. The god was also associated with justice, being accountable for the fulfillment of contracts and oaths. Tyr was also an outstanding warrior and always fought honorably. As the god of war, he favored the righteous side, or the one who paid proper tribute to him. This god is often depicted without one of his hands, which was sacrificed so that the gods could imprison the terrible wolf Fenrir. Balder was the god of light, justice, and wisdom. He was the most beautiful god of all, and also extremely kind, and so he was adored by both men and gods. Balder sought goodness and peace. This god was the son of Odin and his wife Frigga. After a dream, the god foresees his own death. Since he was a favorite among gods, his mother resorted to animals and plants in order to ensure that nothing bad would ever happen to Balder, and so the god becomes invulnerable. Loki, jealous of him, discovers the single vulnerability of Balder and orchestrates his death. Hel is the goddess of the world of the dead, a role similar to the one of Hades from Greek mythology. Her kingdom is found on the depths of Niflheim and was protected by an ice dog named Garmr. The goddess had a sinister demeanor. Half of her body was a normal woman, and the other half was a corpse in decomposition. In her kingdom, the goddess was sovereign and invincible, so no god dared to challenge her. Njörd is a Vanir god. He is the personification of the seas, and is associated with the winds and fishing. And since the Scandinavian people depend on the sea for their survival, Njörd is one of the most venerated gods. He is also the father of the gods Freyr and Freya. Loki is the famous god of deceit and mischief. Despite living in Asgard, he is the son of the giant Jotunheimr. Among his several powers, he has the ability to assume different shapes. This god is a great strategist, but more often than not, he uses his superior intelligence just to feed his own ego. Nonetheless, the other gods make use of his skills to solve different sorts of problems. Loki often does pranks and sets booby traps for the gods. Therefore, his myths for the most part have a humorous trait. This god keeps entangling himself in disarrays and adventures with many gods, in particular with Thor, who is particularly fond of him. Despite his playful side, this god also has a really evil character. He will be responsible for leading the forces of evil during the Ragnarok.